Trey Miguel will showcase his talents and prove once again why Ohio is for pro wrestlers when he faces Sami Callihan, another Ohioan, as they battle each other in a last man standing match during Impact Wrestling's Ultimate Rebellion pay-per-view on Sunday, April 25th. The event is from Skyway Studios in Nashville, available on pay-per-view, Fight TV. Thank you so much, Trey. What is it about Ohio? Ohio, so many wrestlers are from Ohio, Trey. Is it in the water?
I thought Ohio was for lovers.
That could be too, but I know it for pro wrestlers, but it could be both now.
I honestly think that Ohio probably makes up like 1/4 of like pro wrestling as a whole. 100%. The amount of people that come out of Ohio, I don't know. It might be something in the water. That or the mosquitoes are spreading it because they suck here.
I know some about mosquitoes in South Florida too, so I can hear you. I hear you there. Hey, what's it been like, this journey for you? And I read you started at like 14 years old?
Yes, yeah. I started training on August 1st, 2009.
How's that journey been like?
It's been crazy because when I got into wrestling was in a different place than it is now. We didn't have the social medias to do things. I know, like, what's crazy is I get roped in with a generation of wrestlers that have all this tech to use to navigate wrestling and things that make it much easier for them. That is not how it started for me. I was very much a part of the transitional stages that wrestling had. My first bookings, we map quested, and we had to print the instructions. I think the only smartphone that was out at the time was the Motorola Droid, just the first Droid phone that came out, and no one had it, so we had a map quest. And I remember not having YouTube to find matches. I still had to try to buy DVDs at independent shows and stuff like that because not everything was uploaded to the internet. Before toxic Twitter, we had the indie message board, which is a website where people went to just trash talk everything that was wrestling. But now there's an app for it called Twitter. I used to carry a camcorder with me to my shows and ask anyone that was free, like, hey, could you record this for me so that way I can try to upload this and send it to promoters. And now, I mean, like, we have the High Spots Wrestling Network, which not only records your match for you, but people buy and then gift your coolest stuff for you, so you get instant gratification the moment you're done wrestling. That was not it for me coming up. I remember waiting like a month and a half to see fan footage or something like that. So, I mean, it's been quite a journey. We go from all there to being signed on TV, and I just kind of want to start singing the theme song of the Jeffersons right now.
Trey Miguel's moving on up, everybody. That deluxe wrestling apartment in the sky.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Trey, you mentioned about having fans or somebody record your matches back then. Do you ever hear from any one of them later just saying, like, because I know you meet a lot of people, but just saying, hey, I don't know if you remember me. Hey, but I got to shoot one of your matches one time.
There was not that particular, but literally just yesterday, a woman who has always been so sweet, and I've been on so many shows with her, and I haven't seen her in close to maybe 5 years or so. She just uploaded some very old pictures of me wrestling yesterday and just goes, you guys remember when Trey Miguel was a kid and now he's literally a star? I don't know how much of that is true. The kid part, yes, but I don't know about the star part. But that was really cool to see. It always puts a smile on my face to think that people like hold on to those memories, because I do too. Like any fan interaction that really stands out or gives me something to like take away from it, I do hold close to my heart. I've had so many interactions with great fans. There's a lot of stuff in my inbox I don't check because there's just so much of it coming in. So there might be some stuff out there where someone's like, hey man, look at this old match I recorded of you, but I just haven't seen it myself.
Trey Miguel Flashback Fridays. It's 110%. That's it.
You have all these things queued for the day, man. You're so ready for this.
Hey, this is so cool because Rebellion is such a big deal. That main event, with Rich Swann, the Impact Wrestling champ, Kenny Omega, AEW, AAA Mega champ, and putting those two together, it's almost like, see, now, Trey, I'm dating myself, and Ross as well. Ross can tell you this. I go back a long time. So I remember, Trey, back in the day, we would have like the special event down here at the Orange Bowl in Miami. Rest in peace, Orange Bowl. I love the Orange Bowl. No more. Now it's Marlins Park. But anyway, so what happened was we would have the NWA champ Harley Race against the WWF champ Superstar Billy Graham. And it would be like NWA versus WWF. And you'd have Dusty Rhodes from the NWA against Ken Patera, original World's Strongest Man. But you had this cool card like that. Now, I know it's not as much crossover, but this is a crossover. How big a deal is it for you to be a part of this?
Man, Rich is one of my best friends in the Impact locker room, and Rich has been a big brother to me since I met him. I remember the first time I met Rich Swann, he was at an apartment in Orlando, and I walk into it. This was WrestleMania weekend 2017, and he was currently with WWE. I walk into this living room, and Rich Swann's just sitting there playing UFC, and I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't expect to see." And he turns around, and I was like, "Hey man, my name's Trey." He goes, "Yo, you're Trey Miguel," and I was like, "How do you know that?" And he goes, "Literally, bro, I was just watching your highlight video. I just asked, I won't speak names, so-and-so, have you heard of this kid? He calls himself the Fresh Prince." And I was like, "You're lying right now, man. There's no way." And then he actually started telling me things that I was doing in this house. I was like, Rich really watched this. I've always been such a fan of Rich. So that was my first interaction with him. And he has never been anything short of that awesome to me. And he's come to my wrestling school. He's on numerous occasions now. He blesses my students with knowledge and me with advice and critiques, and that's all invaluable to me. And without any of that bias, I still think Rich has to win this match. And that's what it boils down to for me. It's not who I think is going to win the match. It's Rich has to win this match. Since AEW showed up, they've been doing nothing but bashing us and like the little brother. And Rich has got to put it on for us. He's got to put on that big fight face and knock Kenny off his ass. We have 2 championships that if they go, they're going. We haven't seen anyone from Impact pop up on AEW aside from the Good Brothers, but I don't think we're going to expect the Good Brothers to bring home a set of world championships when they're a tag team. So how are we going to get those back? That's the big question to me. So with all of this going on in my mind alone, I can only imagine that it's times 20 in Rich's. The pressure is really on. It's the biggest match. I think it's the biggest match in pro wrestling history right now. In the past year, that during COVID, so much has changed. But if anything's going to change the landscape of wrestling, this is it right here. This is going to shake things up tremendously, no matter which way it goes. So I'm more excited for that match than I am to be the last man standing over Sami Callihan like I'm going to be. I had every intention of stealing this show. I don't like to half-ass anything. I don't like to phone it in, as they would say. I want to give it all every time. I think I could give it all to Sami 4 times, and it still won't touch the fight that main event is going to have, because it has to have it. There's just so much on the line.
It's interesting you mentioned that the last man standing match that you're in. And it's interesting to me because you have this big main event, but you have some really good matches also on that. I'm hopeful, and I'm guessing, Trey, this is an opportunity to bring more eyes on Impact Wrestling just because of that main event. Are you looking at it that way?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not sure if you've seen the announcement made of who will be commentating the main event. I think that's going to add so much to this main event, and I'm honestly so excited to listen to it. I really this is going to be the main event of the year. It just is, and I'm getting goosebumps right now. I literally don't know if you can see that, but all my arm hairs are standing up with a bunch of bumps under them. I really feel that passionate about the main event, and it's not even my main event.
And some cool tattoos too, by the way. Do the tattoos have some meaning?
Yeah, actually, so my left arm is actually completely dedicated to my late brother. My brother passed away on St. Patrick's Day, 2013. So there's that expression, you'd give an arm for someone, and I wanted to do that for my brother. He was really big on animations, anime, anything. He was 26 and watching cartoons every morning before work. So I didn't want to get an actual portrait of him for two reasons. One, if you mess up that portrait, not only did you mess up my brother's face, but now I got to mess up your face. So let's try to steer clear of that if we can.
Talk about pressure.
You know what I mean? But what was actually perfect was my brother used to work at the Toledo Zoo, and they had someone there that did characters pretty regularly. And my brother brought home a caricature of him, and it captured him absolutely perfectly. And I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. So my brother played the violin. On the inside of my forearm, I have a violin. And on the other side is the type 1 diabetes awareness ribbon, because that's how my brother passed away. He passed away in his sleep of low blood sugar from having type 1 diabetes. And then we have his caricature on my bicep, which is my favorite part, because every time I'm on TV or every time someone gets a photo of me in a ring, my brother is right there with me every single time. And then I have his name on it's his nickname, but his nickname was Buddha because he was a fat old baby and he looked like Buddha. And then actually the most recent one is this chest piece that I'm working on right now. We have one more session to go on it. It's a cover up of my first and my third tattoo that I was so positive as a teenager I would never regret. I'm so positive that I'm mature enough to make lifelong decisions, and I mean real lifelong decisions. Not a marriage. That can go out the window. I was ready at 14 and 16 to make these decisions, and now I'm like, why? But
you made your pro wrestling decision. That's worked out well so far.
That worked out well. It's had its trials and tribulations, but I think I've learned how to navigate these waters, and I think I got a good boat to be in right now.
Well, you mentioned your brother in cartoons. I'm curious, Trey, do you and your brother favorite cartoon?
Oh man, so my brother was big on the Boondocks. That hands down his favorite. My favorite honestly, it might be the Boondocks too, because I mean it was just so vulgar. It's really the only like kind of anime I got into. He was into like different things like Japanese anime and stuff like that. He was really big on that. But honestly, the Boondocks was just it was so close to home because I grew up in a big family with a ton of brothers, and we were always fighting each other and fighting our dad and whatnot. And that's literally all that show is. So we would stay up late every week and watch it on Wednesday nights at like 10:30 on Adult Swim.
That's so cool. Hey, you mentioned about the special broadcast commentator for that main event at Rebellion, Sunday, April 25th, and it's Mauro Ranallo. And Mauro, tremendous MMA, pro wrestling, unbelievable. And you mentioned you talked about him. What does it mean also just overall to have Mauro part of this? And do you wish he was calling your match? No offense to anyone else.
Oh my God, when I found out that he was, I was like, oh my God, yes. And then I looked at the bottom and it said commentating main event. I was like, man, this. Oh. Dude, I want that so bad. I honestly, he called the Cruiserweight Classic, and when I heard him, I was like, oh my God. I mean, you want to talk about someone that knows it? Like, did real homework and like not only gathered the information, but retained the information and is now delivering the information without missing a beat, a step, or a breath. Oh my God, I've never heard better commentary in my life in any sport. When I saw that, I was immediately jealous that I won't get that over. I hope something happens. I hope that he's like, hey man, you know what? I'm bored. Let's just do the whole thing. And they're like, please. So that way I can get some of that love too. Because man, that would be so sweet.
Everybody on Twitter should just be showering him with good, positive messages.
Great idea. I'm literally about to take to Twitter right after this. Like, this might be selfish, but it might get over. Please like and retweet if you want. this entire pay-per-view commentate. Oh man.
Oh man. Hey, listen, you started at 14. You are still very young, although you're an experienced young competitor, grappler, pro wrestler. Looking at the Impact Wrestling roster, between you, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Raju, Kiera Hogan too. There are so many good young talent on this roster. What can you say about the young talent on Impact Wrestling?
I love the fact that Impact does not hold back from giving young talent a real opportunity, because when you watch WWE and you think about guys like, you think of your Big Shows and your Triple H's, and I mean, Big Show just switched to AEW, but I mean, like, guys that haven't been off TV for too long, you know what I mean? Like, they were on TV for so long, and yeah, I mean, they were, I think we lose the reality of, oh man, like, I'm only seeing him on TV. I can't tell how old he is. He's a big guy. He must be older. But I mean, like, Triple H was a young guy when he got in there. And you've got to be a part of that journey for so long. And I feel like not enough people are afforded that opportunity to let a worldwide audience be a part of your journey. And Impact gives young talent that opportunity. So like Ace Austin, hate his face, stupid mouth, ugly hair, sweet eyes on him, I guess. And he likes animal print, whatever. Try to bang my mom, didn't work. She said he was hung like a stack of dimes. Anyway, he was like 22 when he got signed. You know what I mean? I don't believe Ace Austin's, I think he's here to stay. You know what I mean? To be able to, I was 24 when I got signed. Yet it's only a 2-year difference, but 22. And then you get to watch that until, let's say he's signed till he's 30. And then, I mean, like, catching someone that early without having to watch independence, because not everyone knows about independence. Not everyone's a big fan of watching the independence. That's something really special that I don't think happens enough. Getting those opportunities to be a part of someone's long-term journey through a TV screen.
Well, Trey, Ohio, and we touched on the beginning.
Man,
it's such a hotbed for just breeding pro wrestlers. Do you have any favorite wrestlers from Ohio?
Me.
Rightfully so.
Man.
How about Al Snow? Everyone's got to love Al Snow. Come on.
Al Snow actually was one of my favorites as a kid. Straight up, I had the Job Squad written, like, literally. I remember it came off my figure, and I was like, no. And I like drew Job Squad back on the side of his rubber thigh. Man, favorite wrestler from Ohio, in all honesty, and it's with no. Oh, that's really a tough one. I honestly, Dez and Zach, even though they're a tag team, but they're my favorites to watch. And it's not a biased thing at all. I could have never teamed with them before. Literally, before I teamed with them, I was such a big fan of them. I was very aware of who they were. I went out of my way to become a part of their circle. I had to go out of my way to put myself in certain locker rooms, in certain situations, to even end up next to them, so that way one day I could offer buying Zach a beer, and then we hit it off. That's literally how it happened. Zach and I showed up 3 shows in a row wearing the same clothes, and we're like, ugh, dude, why are you looking like me? And then one day we wrestled. We had a great match, and then we went to a Red Robin afterward, and I wanted to go to the bar because my first love ex-girlfriend was working at it, and I wanted her to see how cool of a pro wrestler I was, watching my match with Zach on my phone in front of 200 people, because we made it. And I was like, hey man, what are you drinking? And he was like, I'm gonna get I think he got like a freaking, what's that orange beer that, like, is it Shock Top? I think we each just got Shock Tops or something like that. And I was like, I'll buy your beer, you buy mine, they cost the same thing. But from there we became best of friends. But Des and Zach,
isn't that something, how Red Robin helped bring you guys together? That should be a sponsor for you guys, or at least for you now.
I'm gonna put yum on the back of my tights now.
That'll be part of your intro, your entrance music at the very end. Yum. And it's interesting because obviously they accomplished so much with Impact Wrestling. They moved on and are accomplishing. Listen, they're proving how good they were at Impact was legit, and now they're proving it somewhere else. You decided, hey, I'm going to re-sign with Impact Wrestling. Was that a tough decision for you? Was part of it? I know you're training. You're a head trainer at your own wrestling school in Toledo.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, did that have any part of it too? Because it gives you more freedom and impact to do other things, or not necessarily?
Well, yeah, it all had a huge like role to play. Obviously, I mean, I'm very invested in my wrestling school. One of my top students has recently debuted on Impact Wrestling, Sam Beal, and I take a lot of pride in pro wrestling for anything that I think I do well. And honestly, I don't think there's anything I'm more proud of as a trainer or a wrestler than I am of I'm not the reason Sam got there, but I was the one that trained him. And when Impact called me and asked, hey, we want to feature one of your students, who do you want? I didn't think twice about picking Sam. And having Sam there and having him deliver and then get called back to come back for Hardcore Justice, that's I'm more proud of that than I am of anything else I've ever done in pro wrestling. Being able to wrestle, you can teach anyone how to wrestle if they're patient and they're willing. To teach is something completely different. And I get more insecure as a trainer than I ever do as a wrestler. My feet are firmly planted as a wrestler. I feel like I know who I am. I know the ground that I stand on and I own it. And I'm pretty new to training. I've only been training people for going on 2 years. And that's a scary thing to up and decide, hey, I think I know enough to where I can usher people into this business that I give my everything to. And Sam performing and delivering and getting the feedback that he did makes me feel like I did it right. And that's why I take more pride in that than I have anything else in wrestling. And
Validation. It's validation.
It is. And that wouldn't have come had I uprooted and left. And I would have left 12 kids untrained without a where do I go or a place to hone their craft or try to better themselves. And I wasn't willing to do that. So I stayed home.
And it's interesting because, hey, I hope it's trademarked. Skulls and Bones Pro Wrestling. I think that is such a cool name.
That wasn't my idea. The guy that trained me runs it with me, and he's just an old crazy pirate dude. He just really likes pirates. He's like, what do you think about? I was like, honestly, I don't really care. I was gonna call it Pro Wrestling School with Trey. I don't know. Like, you market it however you want. I'm just gonna put my face on it and be here training people. So if like you handle that part, I'll handle this part, and that's how that one worked out.
Pro Wrestling School by Trey, presented by Red Robin. Oh, I got the sponsorship marketing going, so.
Oh my God, I should have went to college for a marketing major.
It's interesting, Trey. Did you end up finishing high school? I read that you dropped out of high school and pursued pro wrestling. And I'm wondering if you finished or got your GED.
So the story behind that is, yeah, I dropped out of high school as a sophomore. Social life was really hard. I was heavily bullied in high school, man, like really hard. I had just started training my first year. That was Nash Carter calling me. When I get off of this, I'm gonna call him back. He's gonna be like, why'd you decline my call? You don't love me? Oh, he's so emotional. But man, my friends, I grew up in a rough neighborhood. My friends all kind of had the same upbringing as me. We had a hard time in school. I was actually like the last of all my friends to drop out, but I couldn't handle being in school anymore and focusing. It was just really hard, and wrestling had my full attention. I remember I'd be sitting there. We're supposed to take notes. I'm drawing kick pads. I'm drawing tight designs. I'm drawing like full body sketches of me and different looks and stuff like that. I could no longer focus on school. Wrestling was all I'd ever wanted to do. And I have my way in now. I don't want to be here. I want to go train. Very stupid. Go get an education. Otherwise, you won't have intellectual conversations with people that matter. That's my advice. So later on, I turned 17 years old, and that became apparent to me. I was like, wow, Trey, like, you're uneducated, and that's a problem. And I don't want to be like that. And I don't want to feel the insecurities that I feel over it. So I found a program called the Gateway to College program that was facilitated at Owens Community College. So what I would do is I would take I would take entry-level college courses, and they would give me real high school credit and college credit simultaneously. So by the time I would finish the program, I would graduate with a real diploma instead of a GED, and possibly an associate's degree, depending on the amount of college credits I had. After the first semester, I was doing really well. I did so well in the first semester. I did better in that first semester than I ever did in high school. And it's because I was choosing to get an education. I wanted to be there, and it was my choice. So I didn't feel like I was forced or I had to be somewhere, because there's nothing that makes young, stupid kids not want to do something more than when someone tells you, you have to do this. So I went back, and I was really happy with the decision that I made. Unfortunately, the second semester of that program is when my brother died, and I took 3 weeks off, and that was just to mourn and try to figure out getting, like, I had to rebuild my day. I would wake up in the morning and go to school, and now I had to wake up in the morning and prevent myself from crying so that way I could shower and not stink, and then try to quit crying so that way I could eat and not I mean, like, I couldn't stomach food anymore. I couldn't work out. I couldn't train. I couldn't wrestle. I was a shell of myself, and it really ruined my life for a long time. But with that being said, I remember I went back to Owens to tell my professors, like, hey, I can't get this together, and I'm 3 weeks behind, and there's no way to make that up in college. It's just really not 3 weeks straight of missing school. So they told me that I could, like, flunk this semester, but that would I had failed the semester already, but they told me that that was fine, and that I would have to make it up next year, but I would be on academic probation. So if I fell under a D in any class, I would be immediately dropped from the program. And regardless of my story or how I ended up in that position, rules are rules, and there was really nothing that they could do to bend them for me, regardless of what I was going through. So when I returned the following semester, I moved back in with my father because he was doing so bad. Like, he lost his son that he had named after him, you know? So I moved back in with my dad, and he was going through it so much, and he needed help just trying to pay. I mean, like, he had to take time off work too. He just couldn't deal with it. And I started working 3 jobs. I was working at Burger King and El Camino and this place called, can't remember, pizza place I can't remember the name of. It got real hard, and I started missing school too much, and I failed. So I didn't get to finish that. And then literally last year, or not last year, but in December of 2019, I was like, man, so much time has gone by. Like, I reached my goals. I got signed. I'm on TV now. I got to go back. I got to wrap that up. You know what I mean? Life started happening so fast in wrestling. I really just was like, damn, okay, I didn't expect that to happen. And then, you know, one day I'm signed, and I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, man, maybe I go back and get my GED. You know, like, I want something on paper. So I go back in December of 2019, or 2 months before that, because I had to take classes for a little bit, knock out 3 of 4 tests, only have to do math tests, which I tested highest in the pre-tests for. And then COVID hit. I got 1 test left, and I didn't get to do it because COVID. Oh, I'm one test away from getting this GED that hardly changes my everyday life now, but you know what I mean? Just for the sake of doing it, to show people it's not too late, and it really is important. I want to get it done, and it will be done.
And all the hurdles you went through to get it as well,
Yeah.
that it can be done. So good for you with that, Trey.
I can't let that be for no reason. So,
all right, we're going to wrap this up because then Dr. Ross will be so mad at me for going so long.
Don't make Ross angry, man. He turns into Spider. People legit shoot like little web bullets at you. He does it to me every day at tapings.
Well, plus, Trey, I've got a shoulder issue, and I need him on my good side so Dr. Ross can help check me out here. So it's okay. Get the freebie look. But I have to close it with this. And Rebellion, Impact Wrestling, Sunday, April 25th. Huge pay-per-view, Fight TV. AEW versus Impact Wrestling, Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega with Don Callis. Last man standing, Trey Miguel versus Sami Callihan. The battle for Ohio. Toledo over Dayton, Toledo over Bellefontaine. I hope I said it right.
That is it. That's where he's from.
But I got to wrap it up with this. You're a sneakerhead, and I see the sneakers behind you. Do you have a favorite sneaker you can show us?
All right, I'll show you two. Well, this one was probably the hardest one to get as of recently. This is the Air Jordan UNC. This morning, the Air Jordan 1 Hyper Royal released, and this shoe right here is reselling for about $500. I haven't worn it yet. I just took pictures in it. And then the Hyper Royal that dropped this morning, I did not hit on, but one of my friends did hit on it, and he is going to give me the pair. Aside from that, I think the coolest sneaker I own is this custom that was done for me by Goy Kicks. It's a pair of Air Force Ones, and he asked me, he says, Trey, if I could put two things on a shoe that don't match, what would they be for you? And I said, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Halloween. So we have a pair of customized, very Fresh Prince of Bel-Air-esque, but when you look closer at the details, there's blood splats and knives. And then on the side of it, it actually features Michael Myers' mask in pink, a whole bunch behind the Nike mark. And then it's got my name on the back heels. It says Trey Miguel across those. And these things are sick, man. I've only worn them out one time ever because it was to a 90s party. So I was like, I know what I'm doing.
Sneakerhead, Halloween, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Fresh Prince of Midair, Impact Wrestling, Superstar Wrestler. He's going to get his GED. He's going to finish up and do that. He can do it all. So check out Trey Miguel. Thank you so much, Trey. Dr. Ross, I know he's on mute with us, but just in case, I want to make sure we covered everything. Dr. Ross, are we good? I don't know if you could jump on real quick.
We're good. Perfect, Jim.
Yes, there it is, Dr. Ross, everybody. Thank you all so much. Next time, Trey, we're talking a little more sneakers. We're talking a little more Halloween. I wanted to get into Halloween, but we spent too much time.
I will talk about that forever. I will do that. I'm down.
Yeah, Trey Miguel. Yes. Red Robin. Thank you, Trey.
Thank you, bro.